And we are live with another episode. And I'm checking my audio here. Yeah, we're good. We are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by The Keeg where we go over this week's new comic book releases. For those of you who don't know, new comic books come out every Wednesday at your local comic shop. Go to comicshoplocator.com, find a comic shop near you to pick up any of these comics from and more. But yes, new comics, no matter whether they're DC, Marvel, or indie comics, they all come out on Wednesdays. And we're here on a Thursday to talk about all the comics that we could read in like 24 hours just to get a head start on the commentary. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. And normally I would introduce my guests. Now, if you're watching us live, you're watching us on youtube.com/The Keeg Show or twitch.tv/The Keeg Show. And if you're watching us live, you can see that we don't have guests today. It's just me doing a solo show. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see all that, and you're going to be listening to my voice the whole time. So hopefully you're a fan of me, my voice, my commentary. We will also be referring to the chat. So anyone out there who is watching us live, if you want to chime in on the chat, you can chime in, youtube.com/The Keeg Show or twitch.tv/The Keeg Show. I'm going to talk about all the comics that I read this week. And you guys are more than happy to stick around and listen to it or talk to me or whatnot. I read a good amount of comics this week. It is a little bit of a slow week, but I do want to shout out a couple of people out there. Shout out to Derpy Entertainment out there on Twitch. Derpy, don't know if you're liking, commenting, following, subscribing. You don't have to. No one's forcing you. But I don't know. Let me know you guys are out there if you guys are watching. And also the Vinyl Casket out on YouTube. Saying some positive things out there. The Vinyl Casket says that they remember the rush of running a weekly show and the motivation and passion it takes. You the man. So thank you for that. Yes, we were having guests normally, and today we're not. Normally the way that it works with hosting and guesting is that we can cover more comics that way if we're doing it that way. But today, luckily, it's a bit of a lighter week when it comes to DC and Marvel. So if anyone's out there and you want to ask questions, feel free to ask questions. That's what today's episode is all about, is, kind of being more interactive than normal. Because normally there's multiple people out there or on this show that we gotta leave room to talk for. So Final Casket, if you got any questions, or Derpy Entertainment has any questions, feel free to ask them. So now here's the thing about all the comics that came out this week is that I read a good amount of them. And so I'll tell you my list and then I'll tell you my pick of the week, and we can kind of talk about it from there. I really hope the people who are watching or listening to the podcast aren't going to get sick and tired of my voice. But I am the host, Dimithri Perera. If you guys haven't liked, comment, subscribed, follow us at The Keeg Show pretty much everywhere, at The Keeg Show. It's not just Comic Talk that we have. We got a couple of other shows right now. We're doing an Andor after show. So if you haven't watched Andor on Disney Plus, if you're a Star Wars fan, it is one of my favorites. One of my favorite shows of all time. Vinyl Casket says the hardest part about going solo is avoiding getting sidetracked and ranting too long on any one single point. Is that Vinyl Casket is getting passive aggressive on me, and no, I don't take it that way. But feel free to ask questions and I can switch topics. I also have cool covers that I put on the live stream that I set up. So if you're out there and, you're watching us live on YouTube or Twitch, I'll be able to kind of have a more visual component than you would on the podcast. But I got to load that up. If the question is, what comics did I read this week? Let me get into it, I read, and there were still comics, even on a light week, there are always comics that I want to read that I don't get the chance to read, because, I mean, the whole premise of the show is we go over everything that we can or could read in those 24 hours. So, obviously there are comics that I'm going to be reading over the weekend that I didn't get to it in 24 hours. Anyway, what did I read this week? I read Ultimate Spider-Man 16, Detective Comics annual, so the annual for Detective Comics for 2025. Also the annual for 2025 for Batman Superman World's Finest. I also read Fantastic Four 31. I read NYX number 10. I read Hellhunters number 5. And then I got about halfway through Power Company Recharged number 1. And I think, and then Kid Juggernaut number 1. That was also one that I read. So if you guys are out there and you're wondering, like, first thing, where do you get your comics from? comicshoplocator.com. Find a comic shop near you. Sure. But if you're wondering, like, what comics are out this week, I think the easiest website to go to is leagueofcomicgeeks.com. It's probably the easiest thing. I use it. The guests that I have use it to keep up with the comics that come out each week. And although certain comics get delayed, it's just the nature of the business. Some comics get delayed. League of Comic Geeks stays pretty up to date, and then they change it, depending on what's getting delayed and what's not. So it's leagueofcomicgeeks.com is pretty accurate, whereas, like, I think previews.com, I don't know the actual website for previews. It's previewsworld.com. They also have comics, but they don't always stay up to date. So it's a little tough, and you kind of get lost sometimes. And you're like, wait, this didn't come out this week. Yeah, this Previews World didn't really update everything. Vinyl Casket says, love League of Comic Geeks. It's so organized and helps keep track of everything so nicely. Yeah. I mean, it's my go-to. It's our guest's go-to. League of Comic Geeks is a good, like, starting point. Even if you guys aren't reading comics, and the purpose of the show, Comic Talk, is to, like, talk about the comics, and you don't have to read them. You just listen to the show and stay up to date kind of with what's going on. But one of the big pivotal things about me and getting into comics as a kid was looking up the solicits of the comics that are yet to come out. And this was like early internet, right? Where they were, like, updating it. So it would be something like League of Comic Geeks, but it would be most likely like DCcomics.com or Marvel.com. I would see, like, oh, what are these, like, covers like? And I would just, like, look at the covers. I couldn't necessarily afford comics back then. Not enough to read it like I do now, And so, when you're a kid and when you're starting to get into comics, like, you just got to learn where you can learn, right? So I do recommend going to your public library and reading comics from your public library, and just reading anything that you can get your hands on. It's pretty cool. Also, just, like, go on wikipedia.com. I mean, that's, like, a big thing, right? Is, like, learning where you can learn. Wikipedia, there's also, like, different Marvel wikis and whatnot. Make sure that it's not a fanfic site, because that stuff isn't always canon. So make sure that, like, I remember when I was a kid, I was reading a fanfic sort of Wikipedia page, and I learned things about Jubilee, and I was like, oh, I didn't know she could turn into a jaguar. And it was like, oh, she can't, because that is not canon. That was just somebody's, like, fanfic related biography on Jubilee. So anyway, if you're watching us, I got some cool covers that I want to post up that will hopefully, be a little bit more visual. If the question is, what was my pick of the week? Because that's normally what I ask my guest. And it's so weird, I'm playing host and guest right now. So my brain is going into multiple directions right now. What was my pick of the week? I gotta say my pick of the week is Ultimate Spider-Man 16. And I don't know what you guys are reading out there, and what your guys' pick of the week is, but mine is, I hate to say, like, most of the time when Ultimate Spider-Man is out, that is my pick of the week. Like, it's just too good. Like, it's just too good of a comic. Like, it's always number one. And I'm sure the sales also reflect that, the sentiment. But as far as, like, as a reader, sales and quality don't always mean the same thing. But in this case, I mean, Ultimate Spider-Man is really good. Now, I've prepped these images, so hopefully I'll be able to pull these up right now. But Vinyl Casket says on YouTube, back in middle school, I got so invested in Marvel and the lore back when Marvel website had a built-in wiki where members could edit character bios and add info themselves. I miss old internet. Yeah, I mean, I was in on that as well, you know. I wasn't editing anything. I was just kind of reading everything. But one of the big things that got me into comics in the beginning was a wild thing if you think about it. Back in the days of the early internet, Marvel had something called .comics. And with the Marvel .comics, they would release some of their comics in a digital format, kind of the way you would see it now with like Marvel Unlimited or DC Universe Infinite. By the way, shout out to DC Universe Infinite. They got some good stuff on DC Universe Infinite. So anyway, the point being is, like, reading comics online wasn't really a big prominent thing until Marvel decided to just like release things for free. And I read a lot of my Ultimate books through there. We're talking like 2000, 2001. It was crazy. It was crazy back then. But that's how you get kids hooked. And I mean, shout out, Free Comic Book Day is this Saturday, May 4th? May 4th is Sunday. May 3rd. May 3rd is Saturday. Go to your local comic shop. There are free comics there. But it's also, bring a friend who's never read a comic. Bring a kid who is looking to get into comics. Because some of these Free Comic Book Day books are kid books. Not all of them, so don't quote me on it. Because there are probably some inappropriate adult-related comics that are free for Free Comic Book Day. You know, at the very least, violence, right? But take a friend, make it like a social thing, go to your local comic shop, find a comic shop near you, go to comicshoplocator.com, and go to Free Comic Book Day. It doesn't cost you anything. So if the concern is money, because comic books do cost money, it is a hobby that takes money. Go to Free Comic Book Day, grab some free comic books. At the very least, you know, read what you can get your hands on. So, what was I saying before? My pick of the week is Ultimate Spider-Man 16. For those of you who didn't get that reading list that I read this week, Ultimate Spider-Man 16, DC Annual for 2025, Batman Superman Annual for 2025, Fantastic Four 31, NYX 10, Hell Hunters number 5, Kid Juggernaut number 1, and Power Company Recharged number 1, which I didn't technically get to finish, but I'm putting it on my list. And, you know, is that cheating? Maybe. But I'm talking to myself and I'm doing a show by myself, so who's going to hold me accountable? Anyway, I mean, at this point, let's talk about it. I don't know who out there has read Ultimate Spider-Man 16 or is reading Ultimate Spider-Man, but this is not the same Ultimate Marvel Universe that was started up in like the year 2000. For those of you who are old enough to remember the original Ultimate Universe, there was a lot of hits and a lot of misses when it came to that. Ultimate Spider-Man, in the original Ultimate Spider-Man, that's where like Miles Morales got introduced for the first time and whatnot, and allowed Marvel to take some big swings when it came to narrative. And I mean, I will talk about it. There was also a comment on our TikTok at the Keeg Show that I did want to pull up by just crying it out. That I will talk about. So, Winston, if you're out there, man, say hi, because I'm going to read out that comment that you made on the video. Vinyl Casket says, I've been using the DC and Marvel app pretty much exclusively for about a year now, and I have to say DC Infinite blows Marvel Unlimited out of the water. The fact that DC is only a month behind is so good. Marvel is still at 3 months behind. I've been trying to catch up with Ultimate Spider-Man, but it's so much fun. Yes, so for those of you who don't know, like, new comics come out every Wednesdays in comic shops, and comic shops have the exclusive right to release those comics the day of. Now, these apps that they have, DC app and the Marvel app, they have to leave room for the comic book shops and their contracts, and I mean, just to be nice, like, also, you know. So you can't really get your comics online on those apps until 3 months or 6 months, but recently DC has introduced an ultra tier in their DC Universe Unlimited app, and I did a video on this on YouTube. You can find it. I did get a gift. I got gifted the DC Universe Infinite app to do the video, but I didn't get paid. But I did get a free app, and it is a good app, and they don't pay me to say good things about it. I just think it is good. The Ultra tier gets comics a month after the comic shop. So you're only a month behind, or if you want to spin it in a positive way, you're like 5 months ahead of the other tier. So Ultra tier is kind of worth it, personally. It's not as expensive as I thought it was, and it's not expensive as, I guess, things used to be back in the day. And you get it like 30 days after comic shops. So, yeah, Marvel is 3 months behind. So Marvel has that delay. Anyway, the point being is, what was I talking about? I guess I read the original Ultimate Spider-Man stuff. This is a different Ultimate Marvel universe. So this Ultimate Marvel universe is a universe similar to the 616, but different. It is different. We've been chatting and talking and arguing about this for a year and a half now on this show, on Comic Talk. This Ultimate Marvel universe is different than the 616, but similar enough. And then the maker, which is Reed Richards, we can't go into all the lore, has essentially tried to create a universe for himself to rule. And so he's made changes to this universe. So there are things that are familiar in this new Ultimate Marvel universe, and then there's things that are new. And Ultimate Spider-Man takes advantage of being an alternate universe, but also the strokes are very similar. Now, this is a Peter Parker that has gone his whole life without powers. He is an adult. He has married Mary Jane. He has 2 kids. And this is all very important to the plot. He has 2 kids, and then how do I put this without getting really confusing? A time-traveling young Tony Stark in like Iron Lad armor. He may or may not be Kang. I'm not quite sure. But the point being is he has gone around in time, and he's essentially trying to re-gift powers to the heroes that kind of didn't get their, origin story, essentially, right? And so Peter Parker is an adult, and he gets the Spider-Man powers, and now has to deal with the different gangs and Kingpin and Mysterio and Kraven that are both similar and different than what you remember from like the mainstream 616 Marvel universe. And so Ultimate Spider-Man has been really good. Something that I noticed, halfway through reading all this is somebody pointed out that every issue takes place in real time. Which means that there's a month gap in between every issue of Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't know if you guys realize that or notice that, but like that's been kind of like a cool little twist on the way the storytelling works. And so Ultimate Spider-Man 16 came out this week, and it's just always good. It's always firing on all cylinders. The art is amazing. The art, I want to shout out the artist. So it is written by Jonathan Hickman, who is one of my favorite comic book writers of all time. Jonathan Hickman and Mark Waid may be my top 2. I mean, they're definitely in my top 10. I read a lot of comics. But Marco Cicchetto, who drew Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run, Marco Cicchetto draws Ultimate Spider-Man. And It has been amazing. Vinyl Casket out there says, I love how they finally let Peter and Ultimate have a family again, like an old Spider-Girl. Yeah, the old Mayday Parker, I think it's called like MC2 universe. Yeah, I love how he got his powers and suit and the relationship and the origins with these characters like Goblin. So, yes, the thing about flagship characters in DC and in Marvel is that both companies don't want these characters to age, which makes sense. You don't want your character to get old and die and like whatever. We don't like, we get to see alternate universes and like flash forwards, things like Batman Beyond, sure, but like DC is refusing to really cement how old Bruce Wayne is, though certain writers have kind of worked it into their stories where they're talking about Bruce Wayne feeling older and getting up there, right? And so there's that. But Marvel seems to have a stranglehold on Spider-Man where they don't want him to age and they don't want him to get married and they don't want him to have kids. And anytime they do, then they like rewind it back. And so the interesting thing about the Ultimate Marvel Universe is that Marvel will let Jonathan Hickman do what he wants because it is a different universe. Peter Parker is in his 30s, let's just say. He is, in his 30s. He has kids. He's married to Mary Jane. Harry Osborn is in it. He's married to Gwen Stacy. You get characters that are alive and characters who are dead. Uncle Ben is alive. He's best friends with J. Jonah Jameson. Aunt May is the one who is dead. Did I say Uncle Ben is dead? Uncle Ben is alive. Friend with Jen. Yeah, anyway, the point being is a lot of cool things that kind of set up Ultimate Spider-Man from the start, from the jump. And they keep throwing twists into it. And so something that happened in issue number 13, I think 13 or 14. Issue 14. I remember it because issue 15 had Sandman. Yeah, issue 14. Vinyl Casket, I'm not sure, but I mean, I'm gonna be talking about spoilers within this whole thing. So Ultimate Spider-Man 16. Vinyl Casket says DC has let the Bat family age and grow smoothly in recent years and sells is amazing. Just flops with Red Hood a lot. Yeah, so DC has no problem with letting other characters age. But Batman Bruce Wayne is a little tougher. These characters are aging up around him, but Bruce Wayne is refusing to age, though Chip Zdarsky worked it in that like he is aging. And I think DC is doing a better job at this. But, Marvel classically is keeping a stranglehold on this character. So it is what it is. Anyway, Ultimate Peter Parker, though, oof. Issue number 16, a lot of flashbacks in this. Again, this is my pick of the week. We learn who Mysterio is. The Ultimate Marvel Mysterio is not Quentin Beck, or at least, I don't know. I don't know. We do learn who Mysterio is, and it's not Quentin Beck. And so there are big stuff that goes on in this. And at the end of issue 14, something huge happens. And there's I don't want to spoil much. Vinyl Casket's out there and hasn't read this one. So Derpy Entertainment, I don't know if you're out there. I don't know who's on Twitch right now, but if you're on Twitch, let me know. Let me know you're out there. Anyway, the point being is Ultimate Spider-Man continues to be an amazing book. For your guys' sake, I'm choosing not to spoil it, but damn. This book is easily pick of the week. Easily pick of the week for me. Now, what I did want to bring up on off of our TikTok is that Just Crying It Out says Ultimate Spider-Man being the best Ultimate book just seems like a natural law of comics. And I think I definitely agree with Just Crying It Out on TikTok. Ultimate Spider-Man is always like the best comic around all the time, whether it's this new Marvel universe or even like the old Marvel universe. Like when they were running out of things with Peter Parker in the original Ultimate Universe, they brought in Miles Morales and like reinvigorated the franchise forever, right? And so why then? And I want to know if you guys feel the same way, or let me know in the chat what you guys think. Why the reason is that Ultimate Spider-Man continues to be good. I personally believe Spider-Man is such a strong character. I think Spider-Man and Superman are very strong characters, very notable when you write them wrong. Like, we know who Spider-Man is, we know who Superman is, we know what would happen in a given situation, how they would act in that situation, because we know these characters deep down. The problem is that by refusing to let Peter Parker grow in 616 Marvel, you're almost denying the character his natural inclinations, right? Like, his personality gets stunted, and that's not the Peter Parker we know, right? And so we can only do so much with a stunted Peter Parker. Now, what the Ultimate Marvel Universe allows you to do is take that character that we all know and love and not change him, but change the environment around him that allows him to grow and become a better character and be interesting and take chances and make mistakes. Miss Frizzle, shout out to Miss Frizzle Magic School Bus, but like, that's what they do with Ultimate Spider-Man, and I think it's very noticeable that they can, and they can swing for the fences and do what they want, because they also know that, like, they're not making Peter Parker a homicidal maniac. They're keeping Peter Parker true to himself. Just put him in a new universe with some new twists and turns. Who's Mysterio? What's Kraven up to? Who are these gangs that are running New York? The Maker runs the world, but like, the gangs run New York. So Ultimate Spider-Man, whether it's the old Marvel Ultimate Universe or the new one, is always good because, like, strong character taking risks. I don't know. That's my opinion. So, you know, shout out to the Ultimate Marvel Universe there. So that's Ultimate Spider-Man from the Ultimate Universe corner of Marvel. I want to take it to DC Comics, because DC Comics has been firing on all cylinders when it comes to DC All In. So DC All In is the new initiative from DC Comics. A lot of it is very Mark Waid focused. He's writing a lot of books. He's kind of keeping a cohesive kind of control over DC and what DC is doing. With Mark Waid, with DC All In, there's the normal Prime Earth DC universe, which you can see that Batman Superman World's Finest Annual that came out this week takes place in. It's the Prime Earth. And then also in DC All In, we got the Absolute DC universe. Now, this is the first week in maybe 6 months that we don't have an Absolute book. No, I'm going to correct myself. Back when we only had Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, there was 1 week off from Absolute books. But now we have 3 new titles for a total of 6 Absolute DC books. And I didn't expect to have a week off. But this week, no Absolute DC books, which is very weird. But it is what it is. Anyway, the point being is, DC All In, firing on all cylinders. There's a cohesion to this. And there's going to be even more cohesion when they release the new miniseries, which is called The New History of the DC Universe. So that's written by Mark Waid. It's coming out, I think, in July. And the New History of the DC Universe, I am super stoked for. Super stoked. So got that to look forward to. Anyway, what's happening right now in Batman Superman World's Finest is that the Legion of Doom, the supervillain organization with Gorilla Grodd, Cheetah, Lex Luthor, Joker, Sinestro, Black Manta, like, they are from the past, and they've come to DC's present to cause trouble. This is kind of the fallout from Absolute Power, basically all you really need to know is like Gorilla Grodd has the immense power of Martian Manhunter, and he's orchestrated time travel to essentially bring back the villains in their prime into modern day. Because for those of you who don't know, like some of these villains, these classic villains, they aren't the same right now in current continuity. Like Lex Luthor has turned over a new leaf. He is essentially good. Sinestro works with the Green Lantern Corps. Joker, I don't even know what Joker is up to, but like some of these characters are good now, or they have been dead, or they've, been defeated too many times. They're a pale imitation of what they were. Anyway, Grodd has brought back the Legion of Doom from the past to the present. It is now this like crossover event that's not in every DC title. It's in a couple of them. And it's called We Are Yesterday. So Gorilla Grodd messing with the time stream. That's kind of what this DC annual is all about. Grodd has gone back in time. He convinces his villain friends that he's from the future. He gives them visions of the future and convinces them to time travel to, essentially take over the world in the future. And there is a character that's been introduced, and I'm going to look her up right now. People were wondering who this character was in the background, and it's kind of okay. So there's a female character. She's a sorceress. Her name is Pythoness, like a python, but a girl, I guess, Pythoness. And Mark Waid has introduced her as in she's always been a part of Legion of Doom, and she, I think, is going to be like erased from the timeline. I'm not quite sure, but the point being is people have been pointing out like, who is this mystery person? And she is a big part of Grodd's plans. So by extension, Mark Waid's plans for his narrative. So I think that's an interesting twist. Mark Waid, for those of you who don't know, has been writing comics for decades now, and he's not even old. So, like, I don't know. When did he start writing? Like, when he was 18? I don't know. But the point being is, Mark Waid is essentially the DC historian. He's written for Marvel. He's written for DC. But, like, he is the DC historian. And I think it's, like, really interesting. Like, people have said, writers have said, like, oh, they should, if you have a question, if you're a comic book writer, go to Mark Waid and he will answer your question for you. Like, he has that big of a grasp on DC. So, shout out to Mark Waid. I met him in person. He's a really cool guy. They say never meet your heroes, but like, I guess just pick better heroes, Anyway, Batman Superman World's Finest is mostly a flashback one. I think it also has a backup, if I'm remembering this correctly. It has a backup about Jon Stewart getting his Green Lantern ring, which I think is really cool. And that was art by Clayton Henry, who is an amazing artist. So anyway, that's Batman Superman World's Finest, the 2025 annual. I don't know who's out there, but I'm just going to keep talking because that's the way this show works. It's like I'm talking to myself, and that is okay. Dear Diary, today I read a bunch of comics. Yesterday I read a bunch of comics. Today I'm on Comic Talk. One day aliens will find this live stream. Maybe it's getting broadcast out into space, and like 100 years from now, aliens are gonna like see the broadcast 100 light years away. And they'd be like, oh, who's this? Who's this Dimithri guy? Is he still around? And they're gonna come to Earth. I'm going to be a brain in a jar. Still reading comics. Okay, brain in a jar. Give me some eyeballs. I'm good. Flip the pages for me. That's... If I could read comics till the end of time, as long as there's still society and there's still people making comics, that'd be cool. Not right now, though. I don't want that right now. I'm still young. Let me live. All right. Anyway, that was DC Comics. I think I'm just going to go back and forth, DC to Marvel. Fantastic Four, issue 31. Right now in Marvel Comics, Doctor Doom is leader of Earth. He is the ruler of Earth. He has taken over Earth in One World Under Doom. Now, there's an ongoing sort of miniseries, I think it's 12 issues, called One World Under Doom, but a lot of the other Marvel books, if they have that little title at the top, One World Under Doom, they're tying in with this new status quo, which is Doctor Doom is Sorcerer Supreme, and Doctor Doom is ruler of Earth, and everybody has to get behind that. And there are some heroes that, okay, they're getting behind it. There's some villains that are like getting behind it, but there's heroes and villains that don't want Doctor Doom running the world. Now, Doctor Doom says things are better with him ruling the world, but I think there's going to be some big twist, and there better be payoff. This is like a year-long story that's going on, because I think the miniseries is like 12 issues. So, you know, Doctor Doom is going to be running the world for a little bit. Fantastic Four being the main villains of Doctor Doom, in a way. Doctor Doom is the villain of Fantastic Four, but I guess the Fantastic Four are his villains in a way. They have their ongoing, and their ongoing doesn't really have a choice. They have to tie in with One World Under Doom. So, basically, in a couple of issues ago, the Fantastic Four stood up to Doom to fight him on, like, public national TV, and Doctor Doom said, like, he's not going to kill them, but he is going to do something that Reed Richards has never done. And he essentially takes away Ben Grimm's powers, the Thing. And the Thing turns human, and he can't turn into the Thing. It's just Ben Grimm, depowered, can't go on missions. He's not really adding anything else to the team. So poor Ben has to deal with that. His life's purpose, kind of been pulled out from underneath him. This is issue, 31? Is that what I said? By the way, shout out to anyone watching us right now. Let us know you're out there. But what was I saying? So so every issue since then has been like with the 4 crossed out and then writing in a number, right? So this is issue 31. Issue 30 was Fantastic 3. Issue 29, I think, was the issue where Ben got his powers taken away. Or it was in One World Under Doom. The point being is that this issue is Fantastic 2. And that's because what they've realized is that all their powers are connected in a way, because they all got powers at the same time. Ben Grimm got his powers, got depowered. Johnny Storm starts losing his powers. So it's only a matter of time until Fantastic 2 becomes Fantastic 1. And then no more Fantastic Four. So, I think it's super interesting. I guess they found it out in a previous arc or so. So, if anyone's out there, let me know if you guys read that previous arc of some sort that talks about how their powers are, connected in that way. So, in this, the Fantastic Four essentially realize that they need to go through that whole cosmic ray origin again to get Ben his powers back. The problem is they do not want to mess up their own timeline, so they decide to go to alternate universes in the multiverse and expose Ben Grimm to those cosmic rays, and hopefully he gets his powers. Problem is, in this, and I'm not going to tell you guys how it ends, the problem is they keep going multiverse to multiverse, or universe to universe throughout the multiverse, and those cosmic rays don't seem to work. So, what happens next, I cannot tell you. But there's a big twist at the end of Fantastic Four 31 that you got to read. You gotta read it to believe it. Anyway, yeah. That's Fantastic Four. Let me know out there if you guys are reading Fantastic Four. I'm very excited for the movie. My number 1 movie out this year, though, is Superman. My number 2 is probably Fantastic Four. There are a lot of movies that are coming out this year that I am very excited for, but as far as comic book movies, I'm going to go see Thunderbolts again tonight. I went a couple days ago, got invited to an IMAX screening, special IMAX screening at IMAX headquarters, the official IMAX headquarters. I saw Thunderbolts a little bit early, and it was good. Definitely worth watching. I have thoughts, and so I'll probably do a podcast episode this weekend talking about my thoughts about, and it won't just be me, it'll be me and guests, of course, the normal way. We'll talk about Thunderbolts then, but go see it. I want everybody out there to go see Thunderbolts, and then let's talk about it. Anyway, that was Fantastic Four 31. DC had a couple of other books that came out this week. Question All Along the Watchtower, I know that came out this week, but I am a couple of issues behind on that, so I didn't read this week's one that concludes that. But that was out. Batman The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue 7. I was reading like the first couple issues of The Last Halloween, but I kind of fell off of it because it wasn't grabbing me the way I wanted to grab. So maybe I wait for all the issues to come out and then read it. It's kind of a slower burn than I thought it was going to be, but you know, it is what it is. And then the Power Company Recharged issue number 1. I'm going to be honest, I can only really touch on it just a little bit. I've read, half of this issue. I like the idea. Right now, what's going on in DC Comics, and everything's really interconnected right now, which is really cool for DC fans. But I also think that, like, as new readers, you could pick things up, and you don't really have to get lost in that way. All you got to know for the Power Company is that anti-metahuman hysteria is growing. People are hating those who have powers. And so Josiah Power, his last name, very apropos, Josiah Power is creating a team that is part marketing stunt, part, do-gooders, right? And creating a team that will help the common man, that are all metahumans in a way. And Jefferson Pierce runs the team. Jefferson Pierce being Black Lightning. And so this is pretty much an all-black team. And as far as I can tell, they work it into the story on why this team exists, what their purpose is. We got Black Lightning, we got Vixen, we got Signal, and then we have Jace Fox Batman. So it's not Bruce Wayne Batman, it's Jace Fox. And then Josiah Power has his own powers as well. And so where this story will take us, I do not know, but it's kind of cool to see different superhero teams have different purposes. Not all superhero teams are there to just like punch Darkseid, but this team is a little bit more like boots on the ground, there to help people. And I like it so far. Just didn't get a chance to finish it today. So that's Power Company Recharged. Also out this week, don't really need to talk about that much, is Kid Juggernaut. And it says 1 on it. And this is a problem that I have with a lot of comics, is that like they'll list issue 1, but it's not a series. It's a one-shot. So Kid Juggernaut is a story that originally was released in Infinity Comic form. So on the Marvel Unlimited app, where you could, like, Infinity Comics are like purely digital release, and then I guess if they're popular enough or whatever, they release all of them together in like one issue, because Infinity Comics tend to be a little smaller than like a normal issue. So this is like 5 issues of the Infinity Comic put together. Kid Juggernaut is now on Avengers Academy. He is a kid. He is Korean American, or Korean Canadian. I'm not quite sure. I forget. But it's actually kind of interesting how they work it into the story. Kane Marco got the Crimson Gem of Sidorak from Korea when he was in Korea. Now, the Gem of Sidorak had a previous Juggernaut, a Korean, which makes sense. and Kane Marco had to beat that guy to a pulp in order to be the one true Juggernaut. And so this is the grandson of that Korean Juggernaut. And so Kid Juggernaut has a partial power of Sidorak. What I like about this character also is that he kind of harkens to Vinyl Casket would know, the May Parker Spider-Girl alternate universe where Juggernaut has a son called J2 or something like that. Anyway, this character is just a young version of the Juggernaut, and I hope he can hang out. And I'm looking forward to an Avengers Academy series reboot, because it'd be cool. I like Avengers Academy. So sue me, you know? Anyway, this is a one-shot. I don't like how it says one on the cover like it's a series. Gets your hopes up, but no. Let me check. Does DC Annual have one on the cover? Yeah. So if you could see, but at least the DC Annual says annual. But for some reason it says one, because issues with the number one on the cover sell better, because collectors will buy it. Because they'll be like, issue number one. It's like, oh, it's a one-shot. I guess that's okay. It is what it is. If it keeps the industry rolling, it keeps the industry rolling. I think it's kind of false advertising, but it is what it is. Anyway, that's Kid Juggernaut. And then there's two more titles that I'll go over today before we get going. Thank you to everybody who is listening and or watching. If you're watching us live, it was on, it's on youtube.com/The Keeg Show, twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, or you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. So, two more books, both of which end their respective series. Hell Hunters issue number 5. This series showed a lot of promise. I think it was wrapped up way too quickly and not messily, because whatever, like, they can do what they want. But essentially, it takes place in World War II. It has to do with the Allies in Europe fighting the Nazis, but the Nazis get there's a group of Nazis that get, possessed by demons, like ice demons. And so there's a ghostwriter who, I guess the spirit of vengeance of Zarathos gets into a guy who is dying on the battlefield. He becomes the World War II ghostwriter, which is pretty cool. But then he meets up with Logan, who does not have claws that we know of, right? He should have bone claws, but they're in his, he's not popping them. He's just fighting in World War II. We see Nick Fury fighting in World War II. We got Bucky, we got Peggy Carter, and then we also have the Sorcerer Supreme of World War II as well. And so they're this, ragtag group, and they get power boosts, which something I'm very interested about this issue and the previous issue. They get a power boost by Zarathos, and they get hellfire weapons that kind of foreshadow what's going to happen to them in the future. So Wolverine has hellfire claws, as you can see on the cover. Bucky gets a hellfire arm that is a lot like his Winter Soldier arm, and this is a young Bucky. Nick Fury, I think, gets a hellfire eye where his patch would go. Peggy Carter gets a hellfire Captain America shield and wings, I guess. I forget where she got the wings from. Kind of hearkening to the multiversal, Captain Peggy Carter, Captain Carter. So anyway, the point being is this ends this. It's a 5-issue miniseries. Whether it was supposed to be more or not, I don't know, but it was cool. If you like superheroes in World War II, it was cool, and it was a little violent and demonic, and if that's also your thing, then that's your thing, and this is the series for you. Either pick up this issue and the previous issues, or wait for it to come out on in trade. There's a couple of key websites that I use to buy trade paperbacks, hardcovers, books. I would recommend instocktrades.com or cheapgraphicnovels.com. I'll write that in the chat. But that's where I get all my books from. cheapgraphicnovels.com or instocktrades.com. They're not paying me to shout them out, but that's how much I believe in them, that it would be nice to get a partnership going, but it is what it is. They got their own stuff they're working on, but they are the best prices out there. Definitely check those two websites out. That's Hellhunters issue 5, and last but not least, we got the finale of NYX, and that is the New York Mutants, essentially. They're all young, relatively young. Miss Marvel, aka Kamala Khan, is a mutant now. She's a mutant and Inhuman. But the point being is that they're dealing with the fallout of Mojo. So this kind of wraps everything up. This one, even more so than Hellhunters, this one seemed like they wrapped things up really quickly. Characters appear out of nowhere because they just need to get brought on to finish their storyline. I am interested to see what happens to these characters after this, but Kamala Khan, it is mentioned at the end of this book that she will be appearing in the new Giant Size X-Men #1, which I think has her going back in time to the original Giant Size X-Men #1. So we obviously are going to see Kamala Khan again, but there's characters like Anoli or Prodigy that I'm just afraid might just disappear. And that's just the way the books work. But that's kind of also what's cool about the X-Men comics, is like a lot of the X-Men comics are team comics and characters come and go. So you'll see these characters again, but it does wrap everything up. And that is just the nature of the beast, I guess, when it comes to these comics and when they get canceled and whatnot. So all in all, a pretty good week for comics this week. There is Free Comic Book Day this Saturday, and there were obviously comics that I didn't get to read this week that came out that are worth shouting out. I didn't get to read them. If I had guests on this episode, maybe they would have read them and we could have covered more of a spread. But the comics that came out this week that were really cool, but I just didn't get a chance to read them. We got Rocketfellers from Image Comics, Rocketfellers #5, which is one of my favorite series. I just didn't get to read it this week. We got Radiant Black issue 33 from Image Comics, also out. Feral issue #12 from Image Comics. Shout out to Image Comics. Also shout out to Boom Studios, also putting out great stuff with Grim 22. I believe she's the daughter of the Grim Reaper. There's a lot of really great books from independent comic companies. If you're a Star Wars fan, Marvel had Star Wars comics. Star Wars The High Republic, Fear of the Jedi issue 3 was out this week. There was a Duke one-shot of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, from Image Comics. There was a lot of great books. Terminator comic from Dynamite. If you're a fan of Terminator like I am, Terminator issue #7 was out. Godzilla vs. Spider-Man came out this week from Marvel Comics, Red Hulk 3. I didn't get to have a chance to read those, but there's also One World Under Doom tie-ins like Doom Academy issue 3, Thunderbolts Doomstrike issue 3, Doom's Division issue 2. So a lot of good books out this week, although it's a little bit light, especially on the DC side. It's okay. They're still doing quality stuff. Vinyl Casket says Image and Dynamite have been on literal fire the last year and a half. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Vinyl Casket. Dynamite does gargoyles and some of the Disney cartoon related stuff, right? Yeah, they do. So Dynamite is doing Powerpuff Girls and Thundercats and Gargoyles and DuckTales and Darkwing Duck and all that stuff. So shout out to Dynamite for holding down the fort when it comes to some of those titles, because that's pretty cool. I think Darkwing Duck issue 3 came out this week. Wacky Races, they must have a deal with all these cartoon companies, Hanna-Barbera and whatnot, Disney licenses. Yeah, Vinyl Casket says. So, shout out to them. There's also a lot of cool comics that are coming out for Free Comic Book Day. DC has some, like 3 of them. Marvel has a couple of them. Some are focused towards kids, but some of them are, adult ones that would, are worth reading. Not that the kids ones aren't worth reading, but some of them, their main goal is to get kids to read comics. So if you guys know kids, only kids that that you are hopefully related to, like, take them to a comic shop, comicshoplocator.com, find a comic shop near you, take them there for Free Comic Book Day. The goal of this show is to get people on board with comics, keep people up to date, spreading the love of comics, talking about comics with the people that like want to talk about it, right? It tends to be very positive, this show. But I mean, obviously I mentioned how I'm disappointed in certain books and whatnot, but a lot of thought and energy and blood and sweat and tears that go into the comic book industry, whether it's from the writers and the artists, whether it's from the comic book store owners, whether it's from distribution, like there's a lot of moving pieces. This industry, I would hope, would get stronger. And the only way it gets stronger is if we spread our love of this and we don't dissuade people from stepping into a store. So comics are for everyone, and there's no reason to be king of a castle that's breaking down. I think that some geeks want to be king of the castle. Like, it sounds great, but I think like sharing the love of comics is more important than lording over people, Vinyl Casket says Terminator 2. Yeah. Terminator 2, T-O-O. Terminator tambien. Claude, Curly Insane Guy, what's up? Dropping in late. That's okay. Claude says, are there specific Free Comic Book Day issues you're looking forward to? I'm going to be there. I'm going to go to my local shop on Saturday. Definitely taking advantage of that. May 3rd. I am looking forward to the DC All-In Absolute Universe Special Edition. I'm interested to see if it's a reprint of things that have happened in the past or some new content there. Fantastic Four / Giant Size X-Men #1 from Marvel Comics. That's a Free Comic Book Day comic that's coming out. There's an Energon Universe special from Image Comics. Energon Universe is Image Comics Transformers / G.I. Joe universe that they're doing. So there's a lot of cool ones that are out, and not to mention like ones that are from third party independent comics companies. There's a VR Troopers, Power Rangers, Free Comic Book Day comics. So there's a lot of really cool comics out there. Claude says there's a Gundam Wing one, which makes 90s kid heart happy. A lot of 90s comics out right now. So if you're a 90s kid, not only is Dynamite doing some really kick-ass comics, but like Free Comic Book Day alone has a lot of like 90s related IP. We're moving out of the 80s IP and into the 90s IP, which is something that I love. 90s over 80s all the way. So shout out to everybody out there who's making good choices, Anyway, sharing the love of comics is what this show's all about. It's what the Keeg's all about. So if you guys are out there, thank you guys so much for watching. If you were watching us live, you were watching us on youtube.com/The Keeg Show or twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, or maybe you weren't watching us live, you were listening to the podcast, and that's wherever you get your podcasts from. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, SoundCloud. Those are all places you can pick up this show, Comic Talk, or any of the other shows that we do on the Keeg. They're all live streamed and then put into podcast form. So Comic Talk is that show brought to you by the Keeg, where we go over all the comics that came out this week. It's every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. But we also got the Andor after show that we're doing right now for 4 weeks, essentially. As Andor Season 2, the final season of Andor, comes out. We're doing an after show of that. If you're a fan of Andor, check us out on Saturday at noon Pacific time. Thank you so much, Claude, for being out there. Thank you to Vinyl Casket out there. You guys have been great in the chat, so thank you guys so much. But yes, we have multiple shows under the Keeg, but how you keep track of it all, follow the Keeg on social media. TikTok and Instagram are two biggest ones, but follow us at The Keeg Show on Instagram, TikTok. We're also on like Blue Sky and Threads and all of that, at The Keeg Show, / The Keeg Show, wherever you can find The Keeg. Follow the podcasts, follow live streams, like, comment, subscribe, write a review. Claude, Vinyl Casket, if you guys would be so gracious as to write a review on whatever your podcast app is that you frequent, it would be great. This is the Keeg channel of podcasts. Comic Talk is just one of them. So thank you everybody out there for listening. If you are looking for a comic shop near you, go to comicshoplocator.com, find a comic shop near you, support your local comic shops, and support your local public libraries. Everybody needs your support right now. That's really what it is. So if it doesn't cost you anything to support something, support what you can. You know? Money is the big deterrent. Find the free things that you can support. Your local comic shops, write a good review for them on Yelp, that sort of thing. So we do what we can for our communities. That's pretty much it. I think that's it. Thank you to Vinyl Casket out there. Thank you to Claude out there so much. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been another episode of Comic Talk. Take care, everybody. See you guys next week with some amazing guests. Some of them new, some of them old, some of them borrowed, some of them blue. That does not rhyme. That's not how it goes. Anyway, see you guys next week.
Super fast, gotta beat the boss and get the loot, 'cause it's the king.